Jason Baffrey. We are live, sir.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Coach Talk TV, where we believe that coaching and coaches are an essential part of human development. You'll learn how having a guide in your own personal development can change your life, improve your relationships, and enhance your work experience. I'm Jason Baffrey. This is Rhonda Boyle. You are watching Coach Talk TV, where we have coaching conversations that matter.
Hey, indeed we do. How you doing, Jason?
Good. It's a beautiful afternoon here in OKC.
It is indeed. I think it may be the end of winter. Maybe one more really chilly night, but
you think so?
Well, your guess is as good as mine.
I'm leaving for Florida in a day and a half, so I don't care what it does here.
I know, and I'm excited for you. How exciting. Fun.
That's right.
But you're not really escaping.
I'm not?
I don't think so.
Oh, I feel
because we're kind of mild here, right?
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Today, but yeah, it's going to be warmer down there, I hope.
I hope so. Well, I think you're going pretty far south there, aren't you?
Yeah. Palm Beach, baby.
Palm Beach. There you go.
With our president at Mar-a-Lago.
You are not.
Yeah, I might.
I don't think so. I don't believe you. I'm not falling for that one. Hey, listen, I'm excited about our guest. You know why?
Why?
He's coming from way across the pond somewhere.
I think
from Australia.
That's beyond across the pond.
I know. What do we call that? He's from down under.
Right. Yeah.
I know. Nathaniel Small. And he works with intrapreneurs.
That's interesting. What is intrapreneur?
An intrapreneur is someone who is employed by a company, and yet they still are innovative. They're in charge of maybe teams or in charge of projects that are driving innovation and future potential revenue or revenue for the company. He's going to explain it better, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was doing a little research before, and intrapreneurs, so they say, this is an article I found that says intrapreneurs are the people driving corporate change. Yeah, because they're looking for, what it says, wise companies are encouraging creative staff to generate new and profitable ideas. So it's something that's been around for a while, actually, since 1978.
Yeah, is that a different terminology for like a change agent or something along those lines?
Maybe, but I think that what they are talking about here is that somehow when companies develop, when a company starts to scale, they start to develop structure, and throughout that structure, they can start to lose their ability to innovate, either improve their products or create new ones that they can take to market, because they're so fixated and focused on, now their structure and all the managing what they've created, that they stop creating new.
Yeah. So you have to have people in there that come up with new ideas so they can propel forward.
Right. But then you got to go test them, and you've got to do some of that management and so forth. So I'm excited to learn more about this, because I think it's, it's something that I was reading on that was talking about how they really, these companies are feeling the pressure. Like, think about hotel chains with the disruption of Airbnb,
right?
As an example, where are they innovating?
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to be innovating from within, or they just become stagnant. And so if you consider that, how many hotel chains have just like gone downhill? That's an example of a company that doesn't innovate.
Yeah.
And then they're taken over. Netflix is another one that has forced innovation.
Oh, sure. They've put every video store out of business.
Completely out of business. It was like that was a fad for a while.
Fad,
Maybe.
like from it was more than a fad. I used to
Well,
go
it was only like 20 years. I
every
mean,
weekend, rent movies. I'd go to the Blockbuster Video and rent 18 movies and watch them all weekend.
I know, but if you think about it in the splash of human history, it was not even a blip on the radar.
You're right. Yeah.
So anyway, I think, and through this, I'll share this that I was talking to Nathaniel earlier, but I have a daughter who works for a very reputable beauty company, and she's a manager of one of their salons, and they talk to her and work with her, and then she in turn works with her people on how to grow their business.
Yeah.
So it's all about that being mindful, and it's also, I think, about giving employees more control and more responsibility over, and taking pride in their own environment, growing whatever it is that they're growing. So,
yeah, that's good.
I know. So go ahead.
I said it will be interesting to talk to him and see how all of that applies to coaching.
There you go. So before we introduce him, how about if we hear from our first sponsor?
Let's do that. Are you still looking for that dream job? Have you ever wondered how to ask for that raise or promotion, but you're not sure how? Maybe you're looking for a total career change or trying to reinvent yourself after retirement. We have some great news. It is 2020, and it is going to be your year. It is not enough just to live. We deserve to thrive in all areas of our lives, and Coach Talk TV is all about connecting you to a coach that can get you to the next level of your journey. And if you would like to find that coach, we invite you to visit soar.com today. Soar.com, that's SOAR.com, to find the coach to meet all of your needs.
There you go, soar.com. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that we will find great coaches over there for all areas of your life and business. So let's introduce Nathaniel Small. I think it's really early in the morning over there. We'll have to find out because he's on the other side of the world. Yeah. So Nathaniel Small is a leadership development, sales, marketing, and consulting expert. He has over 30 years experience in coaching, mentoring, and training. Nathaniel is most passionate about developing transformational entrepreneurial leaders who leave a legacy wherever they serve. Nathaniel, there you are.
Hey.
How you doing?
Yeah, really well. Just after 8 a.m. here in sunny Sydney. And yeah, you're on the last days of winter. We're on the last days of summer. So after what you're probably, because we made the news over there, I'm sure has been a pretty horrific summer for us, bushfires, then floods.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been from one extreme to the other.
Has that affected your area too much?
About an hour west, yes.
Okay.
But most of the worst of it kind of hit. Few hours north, the fire started there kind of September, October, and then kind of inland, right down from there down into interstate. So it was trying to put it in US terms, more than 24 million acres forest, more than 1 billion species, animals. So that's a lot of recovery work that's underway now.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's horrific.
I tell you what, though, what you're going to find, and Jason and I have both been involved in cleanup after a tragedy like that. We had a tornado hit here 2013, and Jason, I know you went with one before that, but that totally decimated a huge swath of our land. People were killed, houses were destroyed, and it is amazing how it pulls your community together.
Oh yeah, no, we've seen some incredible things. a comedian who's got 1 million following on Instagram put out a fundraising request and $51 million. That's going to our what's called our rural fire service, who are the frontline people who firefighting efforts outside of the metropolitan areas. So yeah, the response has been incredible right across the country. So.
Yeah, you'll remember this time. In spite of the tragedy, you'll look back and see some of the great things that came out of it. So anyway, Jason and I were chit-chatting earlier about intrapreneurs, not entrepreneurs, but intrapreneurs, which is really who you specialize with. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, an intrapreneur is really somebody who's a leader inside an organization they're seeking, that we're trying to help them to function entrepreneurially, in the sense that they will start up something new, some kind of innovative new initiative or project that's about improving the organization's profitability and its ability to fulfill its purpose. That's probably the simplest definition I can give. And in terms of so they can be leaders at any level within an organization, from a brand new team leader through to the C-suite. But for me, my passion in particular is the people who lead through the middle. So anyone who's kind of probably a leader of team leaders through to a vice president within an organization, who are in that middle space where they're given a strategy, and they may have been involved in the development of the strategy, but they're tasked with the tactical execution of that strategy, and a lot of that involves leading people to fulfill that. And that goes way back to about 25 years ago. John Maxwell, who you probably know as one of the greatest leadership development thinkers and writers and speakers of all time, particularly in the US. He wrote a book called The 360-Degree Leader. And that, for me, 20 plus years ago, was my first introduction to the concept of people who lead through the middle. So that's my particular passion in working with people and helping them to become entrepreneurs.
Wow. I'm thinking that those who are in the middle are squashed sometimes, maybe like an ice cream sandwich. They get pressure from both sides. And what do they tell us more about their special challenges, unique challenges?
Well, I mean, I think I've talked about that a little bit at kind of a high level, but one of the big, when organizations, as you probably in the 90s, you remember buzzwords like re-engineering the corporation started to come in, and right-sizing the company. And a lot of that was just code for, we're going to eliminate a lot of headcount. And who did they eliminate most? Middle managers.
I remember that time period, and it was like a big, that's when words like being capsized, downsized, all of those kind of terms, and families were hard hit during that time period.
Yeah. So when they reduce headcount, they normally hollow out middle management.
Right.
So their numbers reduced and the pressure just increases. So yeah, they're kind of the meat or ice cream sandwich is a good metaphor, or the meat in the sandwich, where they are the ones who I think are under the most pressure. Because they've got pressure from higher up and pressure from down below, and the pressure is different from both sides.
It is very different, because one of them has expectations that then they have to make sure are fulfilled, and those who are fulfilling them may not appreciate the expectations. In fact, usually don't, right?
Yeah, and particularly for those middle level leaders. I mean, I think all the research is coming in now that if you look at the most recent work that Marcus Buckingham, who most people know as one of the founders of the Strengths Movement and co-created Clifton's Strengths Finder, and then went out on his own and is now linked to ADP. All of the research that's coming in is that 80% of our work in organisations is done in teams. So those teams need leaders. and often you're working on more than one team, and you might have a core team, and you might have several other teams that you're part of doing projects or other things. Every one of those teams has a leader, and the most recent work that Gallup came out with their new book, It's the Manager, all their research shows that 70% of the employees' experience actually comes from their relationship with their manager. So Gallup is now talking about things like managers transitioning from boss to coach, and a lot of other things there. And Buckingham's most recent work in his new book, 9 Lies About Work, a lot of the data has come out of the last few years of him working with enterprises like Facebook, Cisco, and others, is that what the science is telling us is that people don't care which organization they work for. They might join the organization because they're attracted to its purpose or its mission or employment benefits or career progression or any range of when they look externally, they go, hey, I weigh that up and I think, yeah, here's a place where I think I'd like to work. But they stay because of the team that they're on and the team leader that they have. So that person who's a new team leader through to a VP who's leading leaders, who are leading leaders, is the engine room of where the bulk of stuff happens. So turning those people into transformational leaders is the thing that actually turns up puts the pedal to the metal to accelerate what can happen inside an organization. Does that make sense?
I think so. Nathaniel, can you describe a little bit when you talk about transformational leaders, kind of what you're talking about there and how they are creating that transformation?
Sure. Well, I think when you look at an individual, and if you think of this in terms of a stacked ladder, people have you want to help people have momentum as they grow, and people, when you look at their skills or their strengths, or let's talk in strengths because that's a space we're all very comfortable with. When you first start working with somebody, their strengths can be what I would call latent. So they're largely unaware. They take something like Clifton Strengths Finder for the first time. And they go, wow, I think that's kind of me. But you get them to a point, you want to take them on a journey where they go from being latent to their strengths emerging to where they're actually beginning to fulfill the potential, the inherent potential that they have in them as they get moving, to the point where they're actually leading in a way that changes things significantly within an organization. So they can shift, like through new initiatives, they can shift profit, they can better develop people. Transformational leaders are people who I think have a multiplier effect within an organization. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's when the manager shines the most, is when they're leading in a way that shifts something really significant in the company, a significant indice that they're really focused on. When they can shift that is when that's success.
Yeah. And I mean, there's all sorts of different measures and metrics or factors that are really important within an organization for all of that. But it's the leader, and particularly the leader of leaders, who is the mediator of that experience for the team within the organization. So the team members filter the majority of their experience of working for the company through their relationship with the leader.
That is so true. Because isn't there a study that says most people leave their company not because of money or anything else, but because of their manager?
Yeah, well, the headline or the management buzz statement is people don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses.
Yes.
I
think I've been in that situation. Have you been in that situation, Jason?
Yes.
So the organization itself can be fantastic, but if your boss is a bad leader, and Gallup were the first, I think, to empirically validate that with that 70% number of your experience as an employee. And when you start looking at the research that started to come in a couple of years ago around what are the factors that drive the Gallup Q12, which is a tool I think we're all familiar with, what are the underpinning factors that drive effective teams? Google discovered the number one thing was psychological safety. Franklin Covey have done incredible work over the last 20 years on trust. So does the leader make you feel safe? Is the leader trustworthy? Those two things really underpin a lot of that. But I think also, and this comes a little bit out of Jim Collins's Good to Great, which was like one of the great books of 20 plus years ago, where they first started to talk about humility in business. To me, for a leader, for an entrepreneur to really deliver, humility needs to be at the foundation. And by humility, I mean two things. One is having an accurate self-perception, so being highly aware of who you are as an individual, your uniqueness, your strengths, your skills, your experience. So not thinking more highly of yourself than you should, but not thinking more lowly of yourself than you should. And the other side of the coin for that is being willing to use your power that you have as a leader in service to others. So that's in management buzz speak, that's about empowerment, I guess, which was a big word about 10, 15 years ago. But unless you have humility as your foundation, you're never going to get the buy-in from your people, and you're never going to be a transformational leader.
Wow. That is so true. It is. And, I really like what you said about a leader really being willing to use their power in service to others. And I think that that becomes maybe a blurry space for some people once they get promoted. It is possibly an insecurity that would make them lack humility. And that would come from an inaccurate self-perception. Like they're not confident yet, so they're going to act confident.
Yeah. And that accurate, so that's why Clifton StrengthsFinder and strengths-based tools are so powerful, because they actually open you up to the realm of self-awareness and the uniqueness of you to begin to understand, hey, this is who I really am. I mean, if you've read Gallup's strengths-based leadership, I mean, for me, the model that works is humility is the foundation. Then your character is kind of that next layer. And that's where I really delve into using like Seligman's VIA character strengths assessment, which is a brilliant complement to Clifton StrengthsFinder. So
yes.
Humility, then the fruit, then it's the 4 levels of Gallup's research in strengths-based leadership to look at why people follow, which is trust, compassion, stability, and hope. So people follow people who build trust, who show compassion, who create stability, and who generate hope. And if you do that, you will be a very transformational leader who creates high-performing teams.
So I want to talk, when we get back, we're going to have a quick break here, but I want to talk more about the BP10 and then how you're using it with some of the people that you're working with.
Sure.
We'll be right back.
All right. If you're a parent, you know that parenting is hard and kids do things that we just don't understand, that we see sometimes as problematic, but it's really our own inability to understand how they're functioning that is the real issue. But there is hope. The new Incredible Kids Assessment is now available for parents to find the joy in parenting again. You can learn the secret to unlocking your child's potential, gain a better understanding of who your child is, and how to parent to their unique gifts. If you're ready to understand yourself, your children, and how to guide them to success, go to facebook.com/Baffrey Coaching. Send us a message. We'll send you an assessment for the Incredible Kids, and you can take the next steps into creating an incredible family.
There you go. Baffrey Coaching. Run over and say hello to Jason. So let's talk about that BP10. I know that's a tool that you use, and I have used that as well. I've used it mostly with entrepreneurs, and so I want to hear how you use it for intrapreneurs.
Yeah, and look, and when it first came out, being called Entrepreneurial Strengths Finder, I mean that was their focus. The research was done on CEOs in the Inc. 500. So they were looking at what made a successful entrepreneur, and they identified these 10 talents. And then they kind of realized, hang on, entrepreneurs are only one part of the solution because they're an engine room for job creation and job growth. But there are people within organizations who are functioning entrepreneurially, i.e. intrapreneurs. So for me, the BP10 sweet spot is really for leadership teams who are leading other leaders. Because they're often managing multiple innovation initiatives, overseeing those. And I particularly use it with leadership teams so that we can identify, do they have the right balance? Are they covering all the 10 builder talents? Do they have confidence? Do they have right across the spectrum of confidence, delegator, determination, disruptor, through to selling? And do they actually have all three builder roles of rainmaker, conductor, and expert? So, because if they don't, you identify there's a gap, then that you can be highlighted to them, and you can say, well, you need to think about finding someone else to be on the team who actually fulfills this role. So it's that level I start with, and then it can kind of cascade down into team leaders, but normally it's with leadership teams, and then down to other teams who are tasked with particular initiatives. So you can run it within a team, but normally I start with a leadership team first, because if you get them on the same page with building is what it's all about, and this is, you start getting a shared language around all of that. They start to see the importance of the 10 talents and the 3 roles. Then you can cascade it down into the next layer of leaders within the organization. And start focusing at a team-based level, saying, does this team have all the 10 talents and the 3 roles?
I think it's easier, or it occurs to me, I don't know if it is, but it occurs to me that it's easier when working as an intrapreneur to identify and share the work around where your gifts and talents are than it is for an entrepreneur who typically has to hire that out.
Yeah, well, look, and I mean, entrepreneurs, there's who are looking to start and scale rapidly with businesses. There's a brilliant book by co-written by Reid Hoffman, who was the founder of LinkedIn, and can't remember his co-author's name, but he always co-authors, and the co-author is the one who normally just listens to Reid and then just writes everything that Reid says. It's a book called Blitz Scaling, which is looking at, after 20 years of him being in the Silicon Valley and working with literally hundreds of fast growth startups, particularly now as a venture capital investor, what are all the principles that they've learned around fast scale startups? And where I'm going with this is that you normally have a founder who's the lead entrepreneur, who has a vision, or there's a small team of a few people who've dreamed and planned, and they've created something. And then they need to rapidly scale the organization. Well, blitzscaling talks through what's the journey of each level of the organization, because when you start as founders, and then you move to having a few employees where you're like a family, and then you move to kind of 10 to 25, so you're a little tribe, and then you grow beyond that. At each stage, the enterprise needs different things. But working with BP10, I think, can work really, really well with founder teams to do that same exercise. Do you have all 10 talents present within the business, and how mature are you at exercising those talents? That's often the missing piece. Are your talents latent, or have you actually been through a process of being coached and mentored into maturity around those talents, so you can actually be transformational as you exercise them? And then, what role are you playing? So does the founding team have all 10 talents and all 3 roles? Because if they do, then they've got the platform around which they can rapidly build and scale. And then when they are setting up their teams, like there's a really exciting company who I'm connected to here in Australia called 8 Squad. They're a Salesforce.com partner, so they deliver transformational projects using Salesforce.com as the platform solution, and they've actually built their whole leadership development framework around high performing teams. So a delivery team is called a squad, and all the research says that the best high performing teams have between 7 to 9 people on the team. So they've actually custom built and designed their teams to be between 7 to 9 people with a squad leader and the optimal roles within that team to actually deliver the solution for the client. And they actually have Clifton Strengths Finder rolled out right across the business. They use it as a recruiting tool, and they use Q12 to track engagement. And they're growing rapidly. They were 15 people 12 months ago. They're going to be 50 by the end of this quarter. And they're scaling fast. They haven't used BP10 yet, but they will probably look at introducing it as kind of the next thing that to underpin what's going on within their leadership team.
Wow. I would love for more teams that are working in this way to have coaching.
Yep.
Tell us more about your philosophy around coaching and how you work best with your people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be upfront and say, in terms of the modes of delivery when I'm running my consulting practice, coaching is actually probably my weakest mode of delivery, because if you think of the conventional way and the philosophy of how people approach coaching, a lot of it is about the coach doesn't need to be an expert in what you do. They just need to be somebody who asks intelligent questions. And for me, the key word, the kind of meta word for coaching is about awareness. You listen, you ask intelligent questions that create a state of awareness within the coachee, and support them to the point where they are taking ownership of the actions that they need to take. So I'm being coached at the moment, so I have a coach, but interestingly, that coach is also a registered psychologist. So I've actually said to them, look, you can ask all the coaching questions you want, but I actually want to draw on your psychology expertise when it comes to the point of helping me work to the point of what decisions am I going to make and what actions am I going to take, because you've got a skill set in psychology that a coach doesn't necessarily have. So I'm actually a much stronger mentor than I am a coach. And by mentor, I mean through all my years of leadership development and working across a significant range of organisations in kind of national and multinational leadership roles, selling in particular into lots of different sectors. I've got a lot of experience in understanding the underlying principles of what drives effective leadership development. So I tend to be a lot more prescriptive in my coaching. And I look at for me, the coaching relationship is much more about an athletic coaching framework where you're imparting knowledge, skills, and experience to improve performance. So, look, I really believe in the power of that kind of coaching, which is appreciative inquiry-based, where there's deep listening. But for me, that's most powerful when you're working with people who are often very stuck. And you're kind of blurring that line between being a coach and becoming a little bit of a counsellor. And everything I've learned about my strengths, the Clifton Strengths Finder and the VIA and Standout and every assessment tool that I've done, is that I'm a lousy counsellor. It weakens me. If you put me in a room for 6 hours a day and I'm coaching people who are deeply stuck with a lot of emotional baggage and a lot of issues that are holding them back, after my first person, I'm looking for the door. And it's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't want to see people grow and change. It's I don't excel. I'm not strong in that kind of dynamic. I'm exhausted by the end of the first hour because, to give you an idea, in Clifton's Strengths Finder, my bottom 3 are empathy, harmony, and context.
So I'm right there with you, Nathaniel.
So it's not that I don't care about people. It's not that I don't want to build consensus, and it's not that I don't care about helping them make sense of their past. It's just if I have to stay there, it will drain me, and I dread doing it. If I'm in a coaching relationship and it goes into that space, I'll go there for the minimum amount of time required to help them get what will get unstuck enough so that they can get some momentum. But I'll very quickly start thinking, who can I refer them to who can do this deeper work?
I am so there with you, because that's very much how I operate personally in my own coaching. Is let's get about what's your next step. Come on, we got to get you activated. It's not a matter of I'm not going to sit here and listen to the story again because you're stuck in a story. I might hear it once, but you're not staying there.
And this also feeds into one of the other 9 lies that Buckingham and his co-author Ashley Goodall discovered, is that one of the lies is that people have potential. So big organizations fall into the trap of having what they call hypo programs. So let's identify our high potential people and we'll pour all of our effort into them, because the 80-20 rule, 20% of your people generate 80% of your results, and we want to build a pipeline of hypos all the time. And for me, I say hypos can be hyperactive, and it's a very dangerous language to use. People don't have...
May or may not be me, I'm just saying.
The lie is that people have potential. The truth is that people have momentum. And at best, to me, a coach is a catalyst, and a catalyst in chemistry is an agent that doesn't change itself, but when introduced to the chemistry, accelerates the reaction. So at my best, I'm a catalyzer who helps people get momentum around what they're doing to move them on that journey from having latent talent to having transformational strength. Does that make sense?
Yes. You're there. You're all about the application and the execution and the moving them forward. And that's why you say you don't want to be a psychologist, which you shouldn't be anyway. But it's about helping them. I loved how you said that asking just a few really significant questions that come from such deep, active listening can really catalyze, to use your word, catalyze someone forward.
And asking the right questions is important. And this is where I take actually a guy called Neil Rackham 25 years ago created a methodology called spin selling.
I took it. I've been all through that training.
And that's my favorite when I'm coaching is situation. Tell me what's happening. Let's tease that out a bit so I can see the situation with clarity. Then let's talk about the problem that you're facing, and let's ask intelligent questions about the problem to create enough. People only change to avoid pain or to increase pleasure. So at a purely gut emotional level. So you're asking problem-based questions to help them really get clear on what's the real problem. And there are 3 types of problems. There's the known spoken problem, which is top of mind and what they think the problem is. If you drill a bit deeper, there's the there's the unspoken known problem, the known unspoken problem. Sorry, I've muddled that up a bit. The known unspoken problem, which if you're sitting privately one-on-one with somebody, the known spoken is 100 people in a room, and you say, what's the problem? You'll find 3 problems that they can all agree on are the big issues. But if you have a quiet drink with them one-on-one at a bar, they'll
come here.
They'll open up and say, oh, actually, my real problem is this. And it's usually some form of, I'm not good enough to do what needs to happen. But then there's the unknown, unspoken problem. which is where the solution actually lies. And you want to coach them to a point where they're articulating the known unspoken problem really quickly. And then in a mentoring coaching skills development dynamic, you're showing them what the unknown unspoken is and giving them a roadmap to change with a model that shows them, here's the pathway, here's where you are now, and here's what you need to do to move through the phases of change. So yeah, that's I mean, I've gone around the shop a bit, but that's for me, that underpinning philosophy is really important. And I think knowing where your strengths lie and applying them to the coaching dynamic, because in Clifton Strengths Finder, my top 10, 6 of them are strategic thinking and 4 of them are executing. I don't have a relationship building talent to number 14.
Jason gets you totally.
Yeah.
So and that one is relator. So thankfully that's kind of my trump card that I draw on to say transparency and trust. I'll be a transparent and trustworthy person, but I'm all about number 1 futuristic. Number 2 strategic? What's gonna happen moving forward? Let's look at multiple options on how you get there. Let's use my input and learner to draw on vast realms of information. And number 5 being belief. Let's get down to our values, our unshakable core values. And then number 6, responsibility. Let's take ownership. That's for me. I coach out of my strengths.
Well, as should all coaches, because I think that's what the difference is between a coach and a counselor. Is a coach contributes to the conversation, contributes to the solution, contributes to the questions that are asked, contributes to bringing about that transformation. Whereas, at least in my experience, a counselor is more of they stay removed from that, in my experience, where I think coaches get up in there and because with permission, right? We have permission to do that.
Yeah. I mean, counselors, to me, wade deep into the weeds of what's going on under the waterline in terms of how you're feeling and what are the false thoughts or realities that you've got that are kind of holding you back. But I mean, a good coach offers counsel. They're not a counsellor, and that's where the mentoring piece for me comes in. Is that coaches have a hell of a lot of experience that is not necessarily about the coachee's world, because you might be coaching somebody who's a senior VP who's responsible for people and culture, and you might never have done that, but you understand what it means to be a transformational leader, and you can see very clearly where they're not actually leading with humility and trust and with good fruit, and they're not showing compassion, they're not creating stability, they're not generating hope. Those are measurable things, and you can actually step into that space and say, hey, when I see you do this or talk like this, this is the impact that it's going to have, and do you really want to be that person?
Sometimes a coach gets to tell the tough news, right?
Yeah, and look, a telling mode. I mean, coaches are all about awareness and it's about asking. But to me, that spins selling to round out that there's the situation, there's the problem, get them to the unknown, unspoken. Then what's the implications or the payoff? If you do this, what will happen? So if you do this, what will happen? If you don't do this, what will happen? The implications. Make them aware of the consequences of their behavior if they don't change and if they do. And then the end being need payoff. If we could get you to this point where you are doing this, what difference would it make? And I think of it like the Jim Collins turning the flywheel thing, which you get a flywheel spinning. Takes a lot of time to get it moving, but once it moves, the momentum's almost unstoppable. I use spin questioning to get the flywheel turning for them.
And that is a gift, especially of yours.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's adapting a methodology that's proven in the sales world to catalyze change and applying it to a coaching relationship. Yeah. It's my short circuit. It's my short circuit of, I don't want to ask 50 questions and sit there and come across like a swami. I want to get down to tin tacks and say, okay, we've got an hour. Where do we want to be by the end of that? And what do I need to do to help you get there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what some people certainly need. So great.
Yeah.
Well, Nathaniel, it's been great having you here. I hate that we are out of time, but we do want to have, point the way for people to find you. Where shall we point them?
Best thing at this point is hit me up on LinkedIn, because I'm an entrepreneur right now. I am setting up my own practice on the side as a side hustle, but that's a long game. At the moment in my full-time role, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm coaching and I'm mentoring and I'm training very clever people, being academics, to become commercially smart and turn them into their own become effective salespeople for their research. So, and I love what I do. But I do get inquiries and I field inquiries, and Zoom and these kind of platforms being what they are, you can connect with people all over the world. So I do a bit of stuff ad hoc, but at the moment I'm very, very engaged within my current full-time role doing what I do. So
just amazing. Well, thank you so much for getting up bright and early and coming and hanging out with us.
No, that's fine. Thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. You bet. All right, we'll see you in the green room later.
Okay.
Wow. I love talking about coaching and the different philosophies that coaches have. We're all diverse, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes it great. There is a coach for everybody, and just about for every situation now, from the corporate middle manager, as Nathaniel talked about, to the individual, to the parenting, and much more. So
absolutely. Well, Jason Baffrey, we need to let everybody know where they can reach us.
Well, you can find me on social media at Baffrey, Baffrey, all of your social media channels. And if you're going to be anywhere near Palm Beach, Florida next Friday and Saturday, you can find me down there.
Because you will be Volcanus.
I will be Volcanus, yes.
Volcanus.
With Festival of Fire. So March 6th and 7th, look up festivaloffire.com and get your tickets if you're going to be in the area. It'll be fun.
There you go. Festival of Fire down in, where is it again?
Palm Beach.
Palm Beach. And you can find us at www.coachtalk.tv, and that will take you right to the page where we have replays that you can watch of other amazing coaches. And so you can find us there and across all podcasting too, Coach Talk TV. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Everybody have a great weekend.